Welcome back to the My Online Schooling podcast, the place where we talk to staff, parents and pupils to find out more about life at the online school. In this episode, we go into the art department at school and talk to Rachel Adams about how that works in an online environment. So we're going to find out her first thoughts about online learning compared to how her opinion of it might have changed. We'll discover the importance of art and other creative subjects in the curriculum, and we'll hear all about the benefits of teaching art and design to students coming from various cultures around the world. Then, for fun, I ask Rachel which artist inspires her the most. I wonder if you might know who that is. So come with me now into art as we hear from Rachel Adams. Rachel, welcome to this episode of the podcast and thank you for being here today. How are you?
I'm great, thank you for having me. It's lovely here in Liverpool today. We've got blue skies, fantastic weather. I've had a lovely morning, been teaching a variety of year groups this morning. We've been doing some portraiture, been doing some biomimicry with design technology classes, and it's been great.
Okay, so you said you've been doing some portraiture and then you said something else. I didn't quite catch that. What was that?
That was biomimicry. That's with some DT classes at the moment. They're doing a project on biomimicry where we're looking at the link between form and function with nature and how that can influence product design and design in general.
So what are some of those links then that you've been looking at?
Oh gosh. Well, we've been looking at, we've been getting students to do some of their own research, to be honest, and they've been trying to find out some links there. But we've looked at things like the bullet train in Japan, it was designed by a team, and the leader of that team actually was interested in bird watching. And when they were trying to make the bullet train faster, quieter as well, they actually looked at a whole variety of birds, and the bullet train was actually influenced by a kingfisher, I believe, the beak of the bullet train. Yes, yeah.
No way.
So that's just one example there. Yes, yeah. We've also been looking at the lotus leaf, because the surface on the lotus leaf you wouldn't really notice looking at it just generally, but looking up close, the lotus leaf has got this sort of stippling to it, and some paint has been created based on the lotus leaf, which is almost kind of like self-cleaning paint to apply to the exterior of buildings. So there's so many different applications out there where biomimicry is really, successful and works very well.
Wow. I had no idea. That's incredible. That's fantastic. Okay, Rachel, so in this episode, clearly we're going to be talking about art in the world of online schooling. But I wonder, first of all, if you could just tell us a little bit about your own education, so where you went to school and what your own experience of school was like when you were younger.
Yeah, of course, yes. Well, I grew up on the outskirts of Liverpool. I was born over in the Wirral, but I went to a small village school and then went to an all-girls secondary school. I had quite bad asthma when I was young and still have asthma now, but the schooling, I missed a reasonable amount of schooling because of that. I had, some issues in school with bullying, things like that, which I think, as much as nobody wants to go through that, I think it helps make you the person you are, really, and you come out stronger from that kind of thing. But certainly some of those things, I didn't enjoy school necessarily because of all of that kind of going on in the background. But there were elements of school that I loved, and I loved my art and design kind of education. I had a fantastic teacher there who was really inspiring, and had been a graphic designer actually himself in the past and had published books and things like this, which I really helped me to enjoy that side of my education and my schooling.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us. Obviously, now you're back in the world of education again, but how did you find yourself back into this world as a career?
Well, it was something actually I'd always kind of thought about. From school, I ended up doing a graphic design degree and was able to enjoy all kinds of elements within that degree. But I also studied various things like glass and ceramics and product design. And,
oh wow! Okay.
So yeah, it was really great. But from university, I went into graphics and became a designer, senior designer, and sort of progressed up the ranks, if you like, and ended up working for a large organisation where I ended up as a creative manager. I had a big team of kind of 20 different creatives and ended up art directing. So I was very lucky, travelled the world, art directing various photo shoots around the world, which is fantastic.
Wow.
But also, you know, a lot of travelling was involved, and I was really enjoying the kind of mentoring side of the job. And so as things progressed, I decided actually this is something I'd really like to get into, is education more. I'd grown up with that. My parents were both senior lecturers and things like that. So I decided actually to leave my job and go and do my PGCE and retrain, and I've never looked back. I've absolutely loved it. I just wanted to share all of that experience with younger people, really.
That's a big step, isn't it, to go from sort of the corporate world, being an art director, back into school, doing a PGCE, in order to then go and work in a school environment.
It was a very big step at the time. It was a very big move, yes, and not necessarily the right move financially at the time, but certainly long term. I was trying to look at the longer picture, the bigger picture, and think about, you know, what I really wanted to do long term with my life, and kind of sharing all these experiences. You know, I was very passionate about working with children of all different abilities, really, and as I say, that mentoring side I really enjoyed in my role. But it's, as you might know, working in a sort of creative environment, it's not necessarily a long-term role. You might move about, do different things, you know, and as much as that can be very exciting, I wanted to have more stability whilst also doing something that I loved. So that's the way it's worked out, really.
So what was your first teaching role then?
Well, I did a few different things when I first started teaching, and I worked for some different colleges, teaching adults, teaching more mature students, also teaching students some diploma, BTEC, things like that. Then I worked for quite a few years in secondary school, quite a challenging secondary school for various different reasons, you know, quite challenging behaviour at times, but what you may call kind of a typical comprehensive, if you like, students from all different kinds of backgrounds. And so I loved the different sort of challenges to that. Some students who you were really pushing to achieve in their grades and really pushing to achieve those portfolios that you wanted, and other students who maybe you were supporting more because of their challenging circumstances.
And how stressful did you find it working in that kind of environment?
It can be quite stressful at times. There's no doubt about it. You know, teaching education is a very rewarding role, as I think most teachers would agree. But certainly working within, if you like, a bricks and mortar school, it certainly can have its challenges. You know, behavioural issues, challenges with attendance, lots of different challenges, really. But obviously that can be rewarding as well.
Of course.
The beauty of working with my online schooling is we have got all the fantastic sides, if you like, of teaching. Obviously there are challenges, but not necessarily the same challenges we would have in a traditional school, and it's really opened my eyes to what's available and what you can really do online, and the relationships you can build with students over a webcam, over a computer. It's quite extraordinary.
So then, how did you first hear about My Online Schooling, and what were your first thoughts about the concept of education being 100% online?
Well, in all honesty, when all of this started in the past year with COVID and what have you, I was a little concerned about online schooling, and, you know, whether there would be that kind of relationship and whether it would be quite a distance learning kind of feel about it. And I did do some online teaching with the school that I've been working in. But with My Online Schooling, it's like a very different concept. It's not like necessarily doing a lesson which is online, and students are not used to that, and they might find it a little bit difficult to adapt perhaps when they're used to something else. With My Online Schooling, I've found that the students are completely up for it. They're really excited as soon as they're online. You know, they're raring to go, really. And as I say, the relationships that I've been able to build there have been fantastic. You know, the students have got all the materials at home. They're very creative. The students at my online schooling have been fantastic. They've been really very interactive. They love to get involved. Lots of them come along, they've got their materials ready, they've got the sketchbook ready, and they're raring to go. So it's been a great experience and has definitely changed the way I would look at online schooling, definitely. It's probably not something I may have considered a while ago myself, but now that I've experienced it and I've experienced the teaching and the way the students have reacted to that, it's been a really, really positive experience, and I can see how well it works for various different students from various backgrounds and abilities, really. It's been really positive.
That's really good to hear. Okay, so let's look at art and the creative subjects in school and in education. Why are they so important to have in the curriculum?
Well, as you've probably heard, I'm really passionate about this side of things. I'm really passionate about the arts and what it can give students and help them with their lifelong skills to not only participate but contribute, to this sort of visually literate society that we're living in now. Everything around us influences us now. If you look at the TV that we're watching, the billboards on the sides of buses, the packaging, the clothes we wear, our homes, everything has been created by somebody creative, as a designer, for example. Somebody has created all of that, and so I'm really passionate about supporting our children, our students, with that in their future lives. Art and design offers so much. Various different elements of art and design, really. For example, personal expression and visual literacy that I've just mentioned there, where students are developing those critical, creative and analytical thinking skills. They are problem solving, thinking about risk taking. So that all of those skills not only work within art and design, but they work right across the curriculum. So really important skills to build up and to support in other subjects as well. It can also obviously support with things like health and well-being, really help with sort of therapeutic support for those students who perhaps are struggling maybe or have got challenges in their lives, and can also help with building self-esteem. That side of things is very important as well. If we can build those skills, things like risk-taking and problem-solving, then that's only going to help the students kind of with their attainment, moving forward, progressing, and really kind of fulfilling their future ambitions. So I think, combining subjects as well with things like science and technology and maths can break down those barriers as well across some of those subjects. So I think it's really important that every child gets to experience some kind of creativity in their education, links to other cultural activities, to really make their whole education broader, if you like, and widen those horizons.
And do you find it helpful to have pupils from different parts of the world in the same class when it comes to art, as opposed to in a mainstream school, most people being from the same town?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure to teach these students, from around the world. I've got classes where I've got students who are in Eastern Europe, other students who are in the Far East and Asia, and other students in Africa. We've, as well as in the UK, obviously. And it's such an absolute pleasure. And it's just lovely to see the students from those different areas really interacting in different ways, producing maybe work that might look slightly different, but in the same way is all following the same objective. They are all working together, and we end up with this lovely community online where, we have got this real sort of classroom community feel, where students, hopefully they don't feel it, and certainly I don't feel like they're coming from thousands of miles away. We've got that lovely sort of interaction between the students and that I can enjoy as well.
That sounds very positive. Sounds very encouraging.
Yeah, it is. It's really great. I've just been so sort of thrilled with it all. I've really enjoyed it so far, and it's been such a pleasure to work with some of these students. And one of our projects actually with one group is about world art, and so we are looking at art from different places around the world, and it's lovely actually. Yeah, it's great to see some of those students chip in and say, oh, well, I live in this country in Africa, and actually those masks don't represent what you're saying, actually. They represent this. Or,
excellent.
Yeah, or I've seen those, They were selling those down the market, actually, the other day, or whatever it might be with different places in the world. Yeah, it's been really great to see that.
Now, you touched on the fact that you were an art director before you stepped into the world of teaching, and we talked a little bit about that. But in what ways do you feel like being an art director before being a teacher of the arts in school has helped you, as opposed to being someone who maybe graduates from university, then does a PGCE and goes straight into teaching?
Yeah, sure. Well, I think when you have got some industry experience, you understand how to apply the subject. So we're not just necessarily looking at the subject as, okay, these are topics that we're going to teach and try and educate students on those topics. We're actually looking at, this would work really well in this situation. Or some of the projects I've done with DT, for example, we've been doing branding projects, which is some of the work that I've done in the past. And so it's, that's been great to be able to talk to them about, well, actually, think about this. Where would this work? I remember trying this once and this didn't work. Or think about trying that with this piece of software, because actually the way you do it this way works better and it's a bit quicker. And so you might have sort of little tips with the practical side like that, where you can, I'm used to using that sort of industry standard software, so I can share those skills with them. But not just that sort of practical side in that way, but also just sharing the whole feel as well. I think about industry and the creative careers, what's available out there, and sort of different directions that students could go in. If they've not thought about things, then, I'm really open and happy to talk about that side of things with the students as well. So, I found that to be a benefit in that way.
Rachel, I've got a couple of questions which are just for you now, nothing at all to do with school life.
Okay.
In the world of art, which artist inspires you the most, dead or alive?
Oh my goodness, Simon. That's putting me on the spot a bit there. I should have thought about that one, shouldn't I?
You didn't know I was going to ask you, so you couldn't.
I didn't. Oh, goodness me. Oh, I couldn't pick one, Simon. Maybe I could choose a couple.
You could take two. That's fine.
Only two? Okay. Let's have a think. I love the work of somebody called Owen Gildersleeve.
Okay.
He is a paper engineering artist. I love his work. I think it's fantastic. And I've seen that used in a lot of sort of advertising and branding and things.
Okay.
So there's one that I love. Another influence. Goodness me. Okay, let's say somebody more of a traditional designer. I'll go for another designer just because that's my background. So I'll go for Alexander Rodchenko. So one of the very early designers, constructivists, who has influenced many, many graphic designers since. So I'll go for those two.
All right. Okay. Well, there's two names there that we can look up if we haven't heard of those, because I confess I hadn't heard of either of those, but I'll make sure I look them both up afterwards. If you could go back in time and meet any artist from the past, who might you choose?
Perhaps I would choose somebody like Frida Kahlo, perhaps.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah, who had many challenges in her life and was really kind of a leading light for female artists at her time. So I think somebody like that would be great to meet and find out a little bit about her challenges and how she overcame them.
No, good answer. And a last question here. When famous artists create something like a blue square that's painted and then they sell it for $1.7 million and the media laughs at them, are we all missing the point, or is the artist just having a bit of a laugh with us?
No, they're not having a laugh at all. It's good to laugh about it. I think, the point is that we are having a reaction to that, aren't we? We are reacting to that. That is making us feel a certain way. It's making us talk about it, and it's making us talk about art. So even though we might not appreciate that on a personal level, that might not be our thing, if you like. We might prefer something that's more traditional, that we can read into a lot more. But actually something like that, I've found even, when visiting galleries with students in the past, or when talking about artwork with students online, quite often those are the pieces that you get the most response from. Yeah. So it can be really interesting actually to talk about those and just see what students have to say about them. So I think it's good to garner a response from those pieces and not maybe just think of them in the obvious way of being perhaps a blue square.
What a great answer. I love that. Rachel, we need to bring this to a close in a minute, but for anyone who's heard anything and might have a follow-up question to anything you've said, what's the best way for them to get in touch with either with you or with the school?
Well, if you log on to My Online Schooling, then there's lots of information on there that you can go in and check anything out about us, or there's also contact details on there that just give us a shout any time, and we'd be more than happy to help and support with any queries.
Well, Rachel, thank you for your time. Thank you for being here on this episode and opening up the world of art within My Online Schooling to us all. Thank you very much.
Oh, it's been my pleasure, Simon. Thank you.
So that was Rachel Adams talking all things art at school. A big thank you to her for coming on to this episode of the podcast. And as always, if you have any questions at all about anything you've heard, then just visit the school's website. You can search My Online Schooling and find it straight away. And also, while you're doing that, don't forget to follow this podcast channel, because then it just means that when each episode comes out, you get a small notification to let you know that it's available. So go and do that. But in the meantime, thank you for listening to this episode, and we'll see you again soon. Bye for now.